Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to the channel. Kayla Djukic if you are new, and if you're not, hello. It is so good to see you. Thank you guys so much for tagging along on my IVF journey. At the time of me filming this video, I'm about 9 or 10 days post egg retrieval. I am finally feeling good and like myself again. So I did want to record a full IVF Q&A. So I figured I would put together a little question ask box as well as an anonymous one for you guys to directly ask me anything and everything, because I was getting a lot of DMs. I do have quite a few questions, like there is a lot, so we are just gonna jump right into it. I've taken screenshots of all of the questions that I got asked and I divided them into categories just to kind of make this a little bit structured. So we have 4 main categories. The first one is gonna be IVF and stims. The second one is gonna be everything about the egg retrieval. The third category is gonna be everything about our eggs, our embryos. And then the fourth category is gonna be just like miscellaneous. So questions that I thought were really good, but they didn't really have a category. So it's gonna be like the kind of random questions here and there. I tried to put all of the questions within each category kind of in some sort of like logical sense. So the very first question, the person said, I'm new to your page. Can you explain why you need to do IVF? My husband did have a very low count, and after about like 5 months of trying to figure out what the issue was, we kind of narrowed it down to a medication that my husband was taking for about 8 years for his Crohn's disease. The second question is, did your husband have low morphology issues as well? If yes, how did that get addressed in IVF? So my husband didn't really have a very low morphology. It was definitely a little bit below average, but it wasn't like super low in comparison to how low his count was. So to answer your question, no, it wasn't necessarily an issue, but it has improved over the last 1.5 years, which is really exciting. The third question, wasn't IUI an option? Because my husband's count was so low, our doctor said like there's not even a point. It would kind of just be a waste of medication. It would be kind of a waste of our time, which I think was very hard to like hear, but I would rather be realistic about the situation, because I feel like if we did IUI like 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds and every single one of them failed, I think mentally that would just break me down way more. Just to kind of clarify so you guys realize how low his count was, the average is supposed to be anywhere from 15 to 20 million. And at the beginning of my husband and I working with our fertility clinic, his count was at 2 million. So it was extremely low. And that is why IUI was kind of ruled out. The fourth question was, what was the wait time to start IVF? When we were put on the funded IVF wait list, we were told 14 to 18 months. I think it worked out to be 13 months that it took for us to get started. I've heard clinics though around the greater Toronto area that they have wait times of like 2 to 3 years, which is absolutely crazy. I got a few questions of people like asking for advice, tips, tricks, what to expect. Some people said they're starting in a few weeks. I would say to expect to be very, very tired. I would say during the stims, that was like my biggest and most dominant symptom was fatigue. Every single day I felt like I did not sleep. I would also say, and maybe it's just my personal experience, but I thought the process went a lot easier than I had expected. I've personally watched a lot of people's IVF journeys on YouTube, on social media, TikTok, Instagram, and a lot of people make it feel very scary. And I was like halfway through and I was like, okay, this is not even that bad. Now, I'm not trying to take other people's experience away from them, but I personally think it was a lot easier than I had seen on social media. So if you're beginning this journey, I would say to take everything you see with a grain of salt, because everyone's experience is different. You may have a hard experience, you may have an easier experience like me. So I wouldn't go into the experience thinking like, oh, this is gonna be terrible, I'm gonna feel like shit, I'm not gonna want to do anything. Any other tips and advice, I would just say if you are in Canada, for example, and you're doing funded IVF, just know that things are still gonna have to be paid paid for, like your medication, your storage. If you don't have benefits with your work, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket like we did. So just prepare yourself financially. Somebody also asked anything you wish you knew, but I feel like I was pretty well-rounded. Like I said, I've watched so many people's journeys on social media. So I would just say, again, take everything you see with a grain of salt, but consume people's content. So like for me, it's actually been very important to share this, especially in Canada. I haven't seen a lot of Canadian IVF people. Everything I've seen has been like US based. So I hope especially Canadian girlies can see, you know, my content and learn from it and hopefully get some better knowledge about the process and the funded IVF and all of that. This is a really good question. So if this is the first time you're seeing me, I have ulcerative colitis. It is a digestive disease. I have been in remission for like over 10 years now. I had a slight little flare up towards the end of 2024, but I was able to resolve it fairly quickly. So somebody asked me, how, if at all, does your ulcerative colitis play into IVF? Now, the thing with ulcerative colitis is it is an inflammatory disease. So with IVF, and honestly, just like getting pregnant and trying to conceive in general, you don't want gut issues. You want your gut health to be very healthy, very good, and like the best and most optimal it can be. So for me, it was such bad timing to start a little mini flare up towards the end of 2024 because I knew I was going to be starting IVF in February. So I tried to address it right away. Things that were triggers for me in terms of food, I was eliminating for the time being. And I've talked about this a million times on my channel, but I did start acupuncture to help me. I got a few questions about protocols, like what we did and just like how the whole procedure and process works. I did what is called the short protocol. I believe they're short and long. So on cycle day 1, when I got my period, I called my clinic. I started my stims on day 3. I went every other day for blood work and ultrasound. I did stims for 11 days total. The day that I finished my stims, I also did my trigger shot and I had my egg retrieval 36 hours after my trigger shot. They updated me on day 1 post egg retrieval, day 3, day 5, and day 6 with embryo updates. And in our case, we are doing a frozen transfer. So they froze the embryos right away. And basically what's gonna happen is I got my period 5 days post egg retrieval and my doctor said my next natural period we would start the transfer cycle. Some people do a fresh transfer, but I honestly don't think it's that popular in Canada. I think doctors here prefer doing frozen transfers, so that's what I'm doing. Now at the time of me filming this video, I do have my follow-up in like 3 weeks time, so I'm gonna find out for sure then. So your transfer would be about like a month and a half after egg retrieval. I got a lot of questions about the injections. How did they go for you? Did you use numbing cream? Did you do the injections yourself? Honestly, they went really good for me. I'm not afraid of needles. If you guys have seen, like I have tattoos all over my body. I have big ones on the side. I'm really used to needles because of all of the tattoos that I have. I literally have a huge tattoo on my side that was a 6-hour session that I literally did in one sitting. So I'm really good when it comes to needles personally, so I didn't have an issue with that. It's funny because before we got started, I thought that I was gonna have my husband do them, but then when it came down to it, I was like, no, I wanna do it myself because I just feel like I have more control. I did not use numbing cream. I didn't feel like I needed it. Literally, I have seen everybody ice like the area before for like 5 or 10 minutes before doing the injection. And I was under the assumption that's what I was gonna do. I was preparing for that. I got ice packs and everything. And then the day that I started stims, I had an appointment with my IVF nurse and I asked her about it. And she was like, I know a lot of people ice before. And she was like, personally, if you can do without icing it, I would rather that. This is what she just told me. You guys talk to your own doctors. My nurse just told me that icing the area makes the medication move slower. That is what she told me. So I said, hey, I'm gonna listen to her. If I can do it without icing it, I'm gonna do it. And that's what I did. The next question I got asked was, what symptoms did you have during stims? Now I know at the time the person asking me this, you haven't seen all of my stim vlogs and content. So check out all of the videos before this one because I answered that like very thoroughly in all of those vlogs. To answer right here, right now, I told you guys already, exhaustion. And then bloating started very briefly around, I would say like day 3 or day 4. And I was pretty bloated for the rest of the time. In the mornings, I was good, but by the end of the day, after a full day of eating and then doing my injections, I was bloated. In terms of headaches, I only experienced headaches on day 2 and day 3. Other than that, no headaches. So I feel like I got really lucky in terms of symptoms. I also did not bruise at all with my injections. This one's a really good question. Has IVF affected your normal life? And the answer for me is no. I feel like my normal life is not the average woman's normal life or the average person's normal life. I say that because I am self-employed. I do have my own building maintenance company and we are seasonal. I do not work over the winter months. So it has been actually very beneficial for me to have been able to do my IVF during the winter because I was free as a bee. The days that I was tired for the entire day, I literally went between my bed and my couch and I just watched Netflix. So that's why I say for me, it didn't affect my normal life. But if I worked all year round and I had like an office job, for example, an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, 100% it would have affected my normal life. I seriously give praise to the women who have to go through this and still work. It was insane how tired I was, and I am so thankful and grateful for the fact that I am self-employed and that I didn't have to work during this time. So if you're watching this and that is you, I give you so much freaking praise. Like, you are so strong. Just know that I'm so proud of you because this is such a hard thing to go through, and to still carry on with your normal life if you already have kids, if you have to continue work and can't take time off, all the freaking power to you. Like, you are amazing. And the last question for this category is, have you gained weight? How are you coping with the hormones? I personally didn't gain weight. I was definitely bloated, yes, but to gain actual fat, no, definitely that did not happen. Especially now that I have recovered, I'm back to my normal self. It's just for that time of stims, maybe it might feel like you gain weight because you're bloated, but just know that's literally the eggs growing. That's not you actually gaining fat. So I personally would say don't worry about that. Don't stress yourself out about it. And then in terms of coping with the hormones, I definitely had like days where I felt really happy and excited, and then I would have moments where I would kind of just like cry about nothing and like everything at the same time. But I definitely feel like that's normal too. So don't be hard on yourself. You are literally injecting all of this medication and your hormones are going crazy. Your estrogen's going up and all of this. So just take it like one breath at a time, one day at a time. So first question is, can you explain the egg retrieval procedure? What are you experiencing in recovery? I talked about this a lot in my egg retrieval vlog as well as my post-recovery video, so I'm not going to get too much into detail. I will link that above for you. But what you can expect on egg retrieval day, I had mine at 7:45 a.m. I had to take Ativan, which is like an anxiety sleepy pill, the night before my retrieval, as well as the morning of, 1 hour before. My doctor also did tell me to take 2 Tylenols, which I did in the morning, 1 hour before. They checked me in, they put an IV in my arm, they checked my blood pressure, they were monitoring my heart rate. I went into the room and honestly, I lay down. There was like these, it was pretty much like armrests, but for your legs. So you're kind of like up like this, and then pretty much one of the nurses said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I don't really remember anything. They must have turned on all the sleepy meds because I like passed out and I don't remember much. The procedure itself I think is supposed to take like 20-30 minutes. I got a lot of eggs, so my procedure was actually 45 minutes long. When they were done, they woke me up and I was still very sleepy. I remember saying like, "How many eggs did I get?" And then they walked me to the recovery room, and then I waited there for an hour and a half until I was like fully awake and off of the meds and feeling good enough to leave. You're not allowed driving after the procedure, so you definitely need somebody there with you. And then recovery kind of sucked for the first 3 days. I was so very tired. Within that 48 hours, I think I probably slept for 40 of them. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I just slept for 2 days. Recovery definitely was harder than I expected. Next question kind of ties into that same question. What did you feel during the retrieval? How did the meds make you feel? Did you go under? So they put me under conscious sedation. So I was awake, but I was so sleepy. Like, pretty much I don't really remember much, honestly. I just remember, like I said, she asked me at the beginning if I was okay. I remember one time throughout the procedure, she kept saying like, Kayla, Kayla, Kayla. Like she had to say my name a couple of times for me to like wake up. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yep. And then I fell back asleep like right away. I will say, and I did talk about this in my video, I did feel the needle go in. It was quite painful, but because I was so sleepy, I was like, oh, okay. And then I fell back asleep. Next question, I got a few of these. What is OHSS? That is ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. People who have PCOS and get high amount of eggs are more prone or have higher risk of getting it. The stims are literally stimulating. That's where the name comes from. Your ovaries. So your ovaries are swelling. They're growing more eggs than what is natural. Like every month you release one egg. For an egg retrieval, you're trying to get 10, 20, 30 of these. So after egg retrieval, once you remove all the eggs, your ovaries are very swollen, and what can happen is fluid can start to leak into other areas of your body, for example, your chest, which can be very dangerous. So that's why I personally was given these like daily pills to take 10 days to help me prevent having any issues. And then last question is, how many days did you take from work to recover? I kind of briefly already talked about this. I'm off of work for the winter, so I didn't have to take off any days. But if I had to give my personal opinion from my experience, if you do have like a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4 job, you for sure will need at least 1 or 2 days post egg retrieval, I would say, because you're just going to be very, very exhausted and have some discomfort in your abdomen. So I would literally take at least 2 days off to just sleep at home. So first question is, what is your antral follicle count in AMH? I have no idea. I could not tell you. I'm honestly not even trying to be funny. I don't even know what that means. I'm just Googling it right now, and it says the number of small immature follicles visible on ultrasound. So I guess that means, are you asking from my first ultrasound? I don't know. I talked about this in my vlog, but when I was on day 3, so the day I started stims, they saw 40 follicles, 20 on my left, 20 on my right. I don't know exactly what my AMH is, but I've had 2 AMH blood tests, and both times they said I was above average for a woman of my age, but I do not have PCOS. I did get tested for that and I don't have it. Second question is, how many embryos, I think they were asking how many embryos were fertilized and are you sending to PGT? So I started off with 40 follicles. At my retrieval, they were able to retrieve 30 eggs. 22 of those were mature. 20 of those mature eggs were fertilized, and we ended off with 10 embryos, which is, oh my God, I still cannot believe it. We went into this hoping to get like 4 embryos. So the fact that we got more than double, I'm just like absolutely grateful. I am so appreciative. I'm so proud of my body for producing so many eggs. Like just the whole thing has been very, very crazy. I'll get into the PGT part of that question in a second. Somebody said, isn't it a good thing that you retrieved 30 eggs? Doesn't it mean a higher chance of fertilization? Yes, I was very, like I said, I was very excited about getting 30 eggs. When you get so many eggs, it does mean there is a higher chance of fertilization, but that's not necessarily the reality. There was obviously the chance and the potential that we could end up with still 0 embryos, even though I got so many eggs. I know with male factor, a lot of the fertilized eggs start to die off as, you know, you go from day 1 to day 3, from day 3 to day 5, and so on. And then last question, a few times people ask me, are you doing PGT testing? Why or why not? We opted to not do PGT testing for a few reasons. The first being, it is very expensive. We were quoted $2,850 plus $450 per embryo. So we got 10 embryos, 450 times 10 is 4,500 plus $2,850. We would have had to pay $7,350 for PGT testing. That is pretty crazy. The second reason is, honestly, we went back and forth on this. At the end of the day, we just didn't really resonate with doing the PGT testing because in our mind, we're thinking people who are getting pregnant naturally don't have this option. And I know a lot of people will come back and be like, well, when you're going through IVF, you're doing so much. Like, why wouldn't you test? Make sure you're transferring embryos that are the best quality or that don't have any genetic issues. We don't have any genetic known issues within our family, and both my husband and I are under the age of 35. So just overall, it did not resonate with us. I definitely think this is a personal choice. I don't think there is a wrong or a right answer. If we had the money to, I probably would do it, but it is very expensive. So we just want to give all 10 of our embryos a chance. First one is about vitamins, supplements, recommended prenatals and vitamins. Did your husband have to take any supplements to improve sperm count? We personally both used the Bird and Bee prenatals. So I used the Power Prenatal for females with CoQ10 boost, and my husband used the Power for males plus CoQ10 boost. I will say it is a little bit more on the expensive side. So for the 2 packs of 30 each, I think I was paying like $160 a month, and we've both been taking these, I believe, since January 2023. So you can imagine how much money we spent on prenatals. But I will say I definitely think they helped me personally because I got so many eggs and so many of them were mature and I just have a higher AMH. I really think that was helpful for me. And then also for my husband, because he was such a low count and he's been taking this for a while, I definitely think it just helps supplement things that he was missing and really needed. He was also recommended by his urologist to take Fertile Pro. Bought this pack off of Amazon. This one is the Fertile Pro MTL. I believe this one is for motility. I'm not 100% sure, but that could be also why his motility increased. And then this one is Fertile Pro Men with L-carnitine. You can buy these separately or as the packs. We just bought the pack and it's 90 tablets in each, so it's a 3-month supply. The next question is how to build a support system. Honestly, my biggest thing with this is that you need to be willing to share with people that you are going through infertility and that you're struggling. For the longest time, we didn't share with anybody, and I think my biggest issue was I didn't feel supported. And at the end of the day, how can people support you if they don't know what you're going through? So I definitely think if you need that extra support from family, friends, you need to share with them. You need to tell them exactly what you're going through and how you feel. Holy moly, there is not a better cue than your camera dying to tell you to shut the F up, because I have been talking forever and in the middle of that my camera died and I was like, oh, okay, this is a cue, I need to wrap this up. But we were talking about the support system. I personally am very lucky that my girlfriends and like my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, they're very involved. They ask questions. They're also excited. Like they also want to be a grandma and aunties and, you know, they want to be there. I think it's important to just realize that you don't need 10,000 people to be in your support system. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 people who are like really good friends and close family members, that's all the support you need. I feel like a lot of people think that they need to have like so many people, but I'd rather have like 1 really involved supportive friend than like 5 who are just like there for me here and there, if that makes sense. The next question is, how has your sleep been like throughout this journey? Honestly, during the stims, it was like really weird. I'm like the type of person who goes to bed at like 9:30, and during the stims I was like going to bed at like 11 p.m. I don't know why. I don't think it actually had anything to do with the stims. Maybe not. Honestly, actually maybe it could be because I was so tired during the day I would take naps. I slept a lot post egg retrieval, and now that I'm finally feeling better, more like myself and trying to get back into routine, I'm trying to get back into my normal like going to bed at like 9:30, 10, waking up around like 7:30 and just trying to stay on that schedule. Somebody asked, how are you and Alan feeling? We are so good. I think we were really positive going into this. We told ourselves like this is finally our time. Just like a lot of positive affirmations, positive thoughts, and we're continuing that now. We obviously got very good news with the 30 eggs retrieved and the 10 embryos. So I feel like now we're in a really good spot. Obviously infertility has been really hard. It was honestly hard on a relationship for like 2 years because you both want something so badly, but you don't know how to get it almost. And now it just finally feels like things are turning around for us and going in the right direction. And we are praying that our first transfer works. Last question, what did you find most challenging about the process? I feel like I kind of answered that here and there with like different questions, but I will definitely say the post egg retrieval recovery. I don't know why I just was not expecting it. I also think challenges kind of reflect your own mental health, your partner's mental health, your support system. Like there's so many different factors. If you're not in a good mental state, it's going to reflect your physical state, your emotional state, and all of that. I think beforehand I did a really good job personally doing a lot of research and just getting myself very informed and just like watching so many different people's journeys so that I would be like, oh, okay, they experienced that. Oh, okay, that person experienced that. So I was already prepared for things in my head. Like I was prepared for the worst. We don't get any embryos. I was prepared for the best. I just feel like I was really prepared. So that kind of alleviated challenges or like future challenges. I think a really big challenge also for people is the financial aspect of IVF. But we've also had so long to prepare and to save for it. In the current time, it didn't feel like a challenge, but leading up to it, it felt like a challenge because we always had to be like, okay, we should put this much, you know, aside this month to accumulate, right? Moving forward, I think the only challenge is if it doesn't work. I'm trying not to think about that. I definitely know that that is a reality. IVF is not guaranteed, but I'm going to continue what I was doing during stims and just keep putting the positive things. Like my body is going to accept this, you know, little embryo, it's gonna stick. Like this is what I'm meant to do. Again, I'm so sorry if this video went on forever, but you guys asked so many questions and I wanted to answer them before I go into the transfer phase of this IVF because I know at that point you guys are probably gonna have a lot of new questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comment section below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to me down below, give this video a big thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.